Okay. Yeah, I think it's recording.
Yes, it is.
Okay. And do you see my screen?
Yes, we do.
Perfect.
Thanks, Ignacy. So we might just get straight into it because have some time. We'd like to claw back. So welcome everyone. We're super happy to have you here. My name is Grace Turtle, sometimes Polyphrony, depending on how I feel. And I am a member of Becoming, along here with Ignacy, and I'll let Ignacy introduce himself. I am Australian Colombian, but currently based in Amsterdam. So in addition to Becoming, I'm also a lead researcher at Deloitte here. So I'm going to hand over to Ignacy just for a minute to introduce himself.
I'm Ignacy. I'm also part of Becoming. I'm from Barcelona. I studied design, and then I started playing a little bit with speculative design and transition design, and yeah, basically that's all that it's meaningful here, I think.
So this workshop is really about introducing you to Control Wars, which has been an ongoing project of Becoming for the last few years and has evolved quite significantly. It is an open source game and it is an experiment in participatory featuring. So one of the core foundations that Becoming Studios is built on is this desire to critically inquire into other futures. And in order to do that, what we do is we mess with emerging socio-technological scenarios to reframe worlds otherwise. So this is our practice is deeply rooted in post-human theory, ontology, and ideas of collective inquiry from a very queer and anti-colonial post-human perspective. So that is the position where all of our work comes forth. And that work really, when it comes to this particular forum and service design, I think is really interesting because it is incredibly experimental, performative, potentially sits more towards an artist practice, but that artist practice is in itself a critical inquiry into how we deliver service design in a more typical way, if you like, if that exists. So, for example, because I think it helps, most of the stuff that we do in Becoming, which has this deep intention to critically inquire into the possible futures emerging in the present, and how we help people engage with that is really based on play, interaction, and that could be interaction with physical artifacts that are more leaning towards speculative design, or it could be around games and participation. And that participation is really core to the practice, and that participation is also quite key to how I personally deliver design research within my other capacities, particularly within Deloitte, working with governments, larger organizations, etc. So the mechanics of what you'll experience here through Control Wars gives insight into what are the ways that you could potentially reframe your practice within service design or design research, strategic design, to allow for more of that critical thinking and reflective practice, which I think is quite key. Now, Control Wars in itself is a politically and poetically active arena. What that means is that we are actively engaging with the political in very poetic ways, I'd like to think. And it is committed to navigating this post-human convergence and processes of becoming. And those processes of becoming are really based on transition thinking of, we need to realize change, we need to imagine new futures, but what are the ways that we can actually change? And that way that we change is not static, it's emergent. And Control Wars really creates the conditions to deal with that emergence in real time, which is what you will experience today. And we do that by exciting imaginaries and exploring more hopeful, more sustainable futures, while asking this question about how we might become otherwise. And that question of how we might become otherwise is incredibly subjective. And this really links into our critical inquiry and theory of post-humanism, because it is more leaning towards the philosophical, if that makes sense. So the kind of intention for philosophy is to challenge your subjectivity, to transform your subjectivity, and Control Wars helps you do that as well. So what is this kind of foundation? Just from a pure kind of mechanistic point of view, it's all rooted in play, the actual game mechanics. And I think this is important to reflect on within Control Wars, but also more broadly within how we introduce play into our work, because I think increasingly we recognize as a discipline that play is incredibly important and useful to connect with more embodied intelligence, to help with relational collaborative thinking. There are very, sometimes play can be done well, and sometimes play can be done a little bit, I don't know, potentially a little bit too on the surface. And so I thought I'd just share with you some of, two frames of play that I think are important references just when you are designing play or you're trying to introduce games into your practice, because it just helps you contextualize, what am I actually trying to do with this play? So there is I think some good principles to start with is, it's voluntary, it's not ordinary, you are in a dream space, it has a beginning and an end, and it offers you ways to create a new order. It can be competitive, cooperative, it can be a choose your own adventure, a game of chance, it can be role play, and it can be contextual. And Control Wars draws on all of these different elements. Within that, the foundations is really trying to ground that play and creating conditions for embodied and embedded change, and realizing that we are a part of very complex systems, and we need to explore things like subjectivities, semantics, and symbolism. We need to think about the convergences between, and from our perspective, that is very much linked to the post-humanism, decoloniality, and queerness. And we need to create space to reclaim our truths, our individual truths, our shared truths, our language, and our difference. And all of that is really embedded into relations, negotiations of power, agency, and action, and really grounded in how we're changing the world materially and technologically. So just some principles of going into Control Wars. We recognize that we are in this state of post-human convergence and becoming. And when I speak about post-humanism, I'm speaking to the convergence of our technology, our living beings. This is very much in line with more than human narrative or human and. So decentering the human and recognizing all human and other living life, as well as the geology of our planet and technology, that those things are converging. We need to understand what that means. Again, coming back to how this is ontological, we are subjects transforming worlds, transforming subjects. So there is a cyclicality, it's cyclical, this process. And we have this embodied capacity to take in and take on the world. And we use our imagination to collectively share resources activated through play. So we have a responsibility also to unsettle Eurocentric and colonial ways of knowing. And you will feel that unsettling in Control Wars. And we are compelled to grapple with the injustices staining our present. And in solidarity with the marginalized, the queer and the alien and the other, we take this position in our play. So stepping into the world of Control Wars, we are in this weird contradictory phenomena. We exist in this phenomena, and accelerated cultural, natural and technological mutations and convergences are sending shockwaves down the spine of humanity and our finite terrestrial planet. And what comes next is not a matter of fact, but a matter of the imagination. And you control the narrative. Can we divert climate catastrophe, combat xenophobia, dismantle systemic injustices, surpass advanced capitalism? And the question of we humans and non-humans and what we're capable of becoming and becoming with has become more urgent. And how we answer this lies within your collective social imaginary. So right now you're going to take on these roles of actors within Control Wars. And in doing so, you will try to transform yourself in order to transform the world, basically. That's the goal of the game. So the typical outcomes of a Control Wars game is that you perform the impossible, you overcome systemic inertias leading to planetary devastation, intervene in social imaginaries, rewire subjectivities, and shape the unknowable and surface the speculative and possible for post-human becomings. So on that note, let's get into a little bit more about how to play, and then we'll get straight into it. So the duration and who can play, and you will all have, so this is as I said, this is an open source game, so you all have access to all of the tools. I've shared the website in the chat. So you can play between 4 to 20 players. And the duration can be from 9 to, we've done more than 360, but that gets a bit intense. So the taxonomy is basically you have some gangs, you will all form some members of gangs. You have a joker. The joker is the game master of Control Wars, and is basically a playful agitator that sets the world and puts you on your right direction. You have tactics. These are really things that you do. You know, our work relies a lot on strategy and tactics. So Control Wars uses our material, but then puts it in a more abstract, uses it in more abstract ways to play with transitions. So tactics are things that you can combine to create moves that creates the world, basically. There are also wild cards. Now, wild cards are surprising, unlikely, yet highly impactful events, and you get to decide what those wild events are. Then there are alliances. So there can be, we have right now up to 6 gangs. We're going to play 3 gangs today. And you can create alliances with those gangs to essentially set the direction of the world. And then you have horizons. So the way we work is based on 10-year horizons, but depending on the context or how you'd like to use the game, those horizons can be shorter or longer. So our standard horizons is 2030, 2040, and 2050. And the site is just above. So where it says welcome everyone, controlwars.org, it's in the chat. Okay, next. So here's, and you don't have to remember this. You will have you can look at the handbook from the site, but I will also guide you because I'm taking the Joker role today. So the general steps are set the battle arena, align with a gang, distribute player cards. We've done all of this for you in Miro. If we go on. The first step of the game is to become one with your gang. So you will take on these a group persona that you might not align with. And by aligning with this gang, you have to challenge some of your own core beliefs and inquire into what are the core beliefs of this particular gang. So once you've kind of embodied this gang, then you start deciding what is my goal for the future from the perspective of this gang, and what are the battle moves to get there. So that's creating your maneuvers, and these get repeated every time based on your world setting horizons, which we've called temporal jumps. Then on the final round, and again, typically you would play 3 rounds based on 3 horizons, but you could do more and you could do less. Today, we're going to just work with 2 horizons. But in the final round, it is really based on reflecting on how has the world changed, what were the strategies and tactics applied to transition the world, and you're able to see what are the interdependencies, what are the relationships, what are the power dynamics across the gangs that ultimately led to a particular transition. And this looks at the world in terms of not one single transition pathway, but realizes that transitions are dynamic and emergent. Therefore, you can't really have one theory of change or one pathway for transition, because things happen. So there are consequences, there are conflicting ideals, values, etc. So we look at those conflicting ideals and values while trying to transition the world, so we can then collectively reflect back and say, oh, wow, this is kind of a very interesting way to see the world and how it transitioned, which is what you'll experience. So on that note, here are some of the gangs that you will be playing. They are techno-libertarianists, leftist accelerationists, cyborg shamanists, and flat earthers. And these are all, hyper ideological stances based on very real and emergent beliefs and values that we're seeing emerge and take hold within society and our culture. So the idea is all of these gangs all have a position and a belief and a way to address climate change. They can be for or against it, but they all have their own ways of dealing with it. So your task here today, and the nature of Control Wars is that you can look at data, you can look at climate, you can look at any topic and have any gang typology, and it could be very specific to a city. You could want to transition a city, so you have city government, you have a citizen gang. But the idea is all of these perspectives are trying to realize one vision, but in their own ways, or understand it or relate to it. So today, thinking about where we are in relation to COVID, what happens after the pandemic, and what happens like through this pandemic that also allows us to then tackle climate change. And how we do that is what you'll be engaging with. So next one, Ignacy. Okay, so it is for everyone. But we have found that it works best with designers, with activists, academia, artists, basically anyone who is actively trying to change their small part of the world, or trying to create change in a positive way. And it really works as a self-reflective, critical tool to start to open up new possibilities. And that is a very difficult step. And you would probably have heard a lot about there's a crisis of imagination, and we need the imagination to be able to move towards different futures. But if we can't imagine difference and we can't start to embody that difference, then we don't have much hope. So this tool is really a device to give you that hope, to give you space to imagine. Okay, so we're going to add the Miro link in the Zoom group chat. And can I just have a hands up? Anyone raise their hands if they've not used Miro? Yes? Okay, so we'll do a quick, here's what to do. But so myself and Ignacy, we will kind of go between the breakout rooms. So you will form 3 gangs. If you're not comfortable with Miro, you can just, it's mainly a dialogue based game. But if you want to write things, we can just write them in the chat, and Ignacy and myself can put it on the Miro board. So Ignacy, can you add because we're quite an intimate group, which is rare, and I think a nice thing, maybe just a quick round of introductions of who's in the room and what you would like to get out of the workshop today. Don't be shy.
Okay, start. My name is Danila. I'm a service designer based in Moscow in Russia. I work for in-house for a retail company, and I'm really curious about this game, and like imagine how I can apply it just the next week, because we have a sort of session, and all what was just described applies very well to the task. So I'm curious how I can apply it. Oh, you're muted, Grace.
Yeah. Sorry, I said thank you for sharing.
By the way, who has the birthday today?
Oh, that's just decoration. No, I have someone's coming over for their birthday after this. I was looking earlier, and I was like, is that a bit random to have behind me? But hey, life's kind of random. So who's next?
Yeah, I can go next. Can you hear me, Laura?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah, okay, cool. My name is Jing Shen. I'm a service designer currently at the Austrian federal government, based in Canberra. I think my main purpose of getting into this workshop is to meet Grace, you. I have 0 ideas about this game, and I'm keen to learn more about this.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who's next? How about the room of 3? You
Hi.
guys,
Hello, everyone.
superhuman group.
Hi, we are Chiba University students. Yeah, and I'm Madoka Oshima, and I'm Chinatsu Komichina.
Hi.
My name is Sota Ishikawa.
Welcome. You guys can put your
Pleasure.
hands together to kind of do something
Okay.
interesting. Okay, Who's next?
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
I'm also one of the student of Chiba University. I'm the classmate of that 3 people gathering there before. So,
Okay.
hi. My name is Wang Shunchang. Comes from China, and now and now learning about design at Chiba University. Yeah, and it seems like a interesting game, so I'll try my best. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And then do we have one? We have one more? 2 more?
Sorry, Sota Ishikawa is this guy.
Okay, cool.
We have one additional person, Sota. There we go.
Oh no, yes, Sota is in the 3 as well. The super group. All right. So you have the link to your Miro board in the chat. So if everyone can go to Miro. You will see there are gangs and there is a battle arena. Now, what I'm going to do is just to quickly if everyone can see, or maybe Ignacy, can you just, before we go into the breakout rooms, just take everyone through the board, and then we'll go into the breakout rooms and kind of choose gangs.
Yeah, sure. So in the, maybe let me share the screen one more time.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So there's these 4 boxes around the battle arena with the gangs. Here's where you work with your gang and you align yourself and prepare the maneuver. Here you see the cards that you got. So everyone has already tactics assigned to their gang. And these like the cards that you're gonna use for these rounds. Then here, the first thing that you have to do with the gang is to decide align yourself with your beliefs. So write here your beliefs and write what's your goal for the future. So that's your like main objective. That is the one that you're gonna try to achieve during the game. And this is the gang box. And while your maneuver is ready, you just like drag your cards into these circles, the battle arena. The first time jam is 2025. Then you prepare the maneuver, you drag the tactics that you've used for the maneuver, and then you write down the maneuver here. And also using this Google image search that you see in this toolbar on the left of the screen, you can search for images that somehow visually explain the maneuver or accompanies, so that you have like an object. Normally, when we do it in physical scenario, you use some objects to actually build the maneuver, but we've decided to use images here. Then after all the maneuvers are set, the Joker explains what are the emerging patterns of becoming after this first round. And I think that altogether, after each round, we'll talk about what are the arising conditions of this new horizon. So how the world has changed. That is going to be the basis for the next move, 2030. And then it goes all the same. You prepare the maneuver, you use the tactics card to prepare the maneuver, and it happens again. And yeah, I think that's it. Oh, and if you here in outside of the gang box, you see this alliance box. So if you align, if you create an alliance with another gang, you have to like to share and to write here which is the condition of your alliance. What do you lose? What are you giving up, or what are you changing to align with another gang? And I think that, Grace, I'm not missing anything.
No, that's
Okay.
good. So we will be with you. So to help you kind of understand and move along. So on that note, we're going to put you into 3 breakout rooms. I don't know that's going to happen with the 3. You might get broken up. I'm sorry if that happens. But yes, so we will spend about 20 to 40 minutes in our breakout rooms, and then we will come back with our gangs defined and our first maneuver for 2025.
Yeah, also, let's 1 second talk about flat earthers and what happened. Okay. Because they say that there's like one box that is not there. Since we're like, we have, for these occasions, we're not gonna, flat earthers, they are not gonna play because they are super busy denying COVID right now. So they are not, no, so since we are not, many people, we decided to only use cyborg shamanists, leftist accelerationists, and techno-libertarians because they are more, meaningful, we think. And they have, more texture with their maneuvers.
Okay, so on that note, we will go to the breakouts. And if you can, as a group, decide when you're in your breakout which gang you want to be, and then just write it into the chat so that we are able to kind of not have 2 of the same gangs. Okay, so thank you, everyone. I think the board is looking really nice. What we're going to do now is quickly, we're going to look at these 2 juxtapositions of the worlds that we wanted to create and just go through, why did you create those worlds? What beliefs and values and goals for the future was it rooted in? And then we'll just have a bit of a reflection, and I'll help you kind of, break down what actually is this game a little bit more in so that you can find ways to apply it to your own practice. So I'm going to share my screen. And whoop, it's not working. Here we go. So where we're going to start is with the cyborg shamanists. And if you could just very briefly touch on what were your beliefs. It's like, who are you? Just tell your opponents, who are you? What are your beliefs and your goals?
I can start. I can try. We are a group of people, just we believe building a strong community together, from the people from Earth, and there's no different nations, and we have a fully control of the climates and also the animal habits. There's only one religion across the human society, which is climate. So that's our, beliefs. For the goals is we want to all locating everyone the same footprints and same points, and maybe business and citizens are ground differently. There's no poverty and war, because the poverty and war may caused by fighting for the resources, petrols, underneath ground resources. So basically just we control people's damaging to the environment, something. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, now if we go to, so that's like a little bit about who you are and what you believe and what your goal is. What does that mean for your first transition to 2030? What have you done? How have you tried to reach your goal for the future? What have you changed?
Do you want to try, Daniela?
Yeah, we've picked three sort of oops. Cards, which are collectivized, make accessible, and geoengineering, and have built some ideas following those strategies. I can share my ideas about geoengineering. So as one of our goals is to make the footprint under control, I decided that we might somehow empower nature to recycle what is, all the artificial stuff brought to the nature, faster. So we know that different materials need different times to be completely recycled, and we might somehow have some tools to power the nature to recycle it by it faster. Also, we are kind of control freaks, so we might have control under the weather. So like set the right weather for our current state, and have some that for some reason, for some fun or different goal. So this is the idea. So guys, your turn to tell about your ideas.
Cool.
Right.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, I interrupted. Keep going.
Sorry. Keep going. Yeah. So there are a bunch of. I'm just doing more research on the make accessible. If you see the big colorful inside of the picture, that's indicating everything around you by hand. When you need to help you to calculate your footprint. And on the left-hand side is a kind of an invisible circle around individuals. It's an indication of awareness and power individual has. And on the left-hand side is a public channel for everyone, everyone, everywhere, even on the ocean, on the top of the ocean. And above that is you see the connections on the tree. It's indication of, every atom on the earth are interconnected and wired, in some way, because we are very technological, expertise. And from that, you can see the impact between human and the environment. And on the right-hand side above, that's recycled logo is two images of Earth. That's indication, left-hand side indication of the great future of, yeah. So that's probably.
Hey, nice. So is that kind of like a good view of the techno shamanists and how you've kind of changed the world by 2030 by collectivizing? What you've done is you've really you've gone beyond collectivization, and you've geoengineered to make that collectivization be between people, technology, and nature very ingrained into our planetary systems. And in doing so, making accessible. So that is an interesting view of the world. Now, if we go to the techno libertarians in 2030, can you explain a little bit about what you've done to change the world towards climate change?
So shall we start from the our beliefs and goals?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so we are the techno-libertarians. Our beliefs are start from technology can solve all problems. Life should be more convenient by tech. And 5G become infrastructure and something like that. And our final goal as a techno-libertarian will be to control nature by technology and make money and prosper. And also make world more convenient by technology. So in 2030, our first step to control nature, before controlling nature by technology, we will start controlling the government by technology. So basically, like hacking the government. So as a result of the technology of controlling the government, the world change to the universal basic income. So the step before controlling the nature, the technology starts controlling the government. So that's our idea.
Okay, could you repeat the last one?
Okay. Our final goal.
Before controlling nature, first we control city building. So make people more connecting internet.
Yep.
The result, finally.
As a result, can make control nature. So it's our idea.
All right. So the and do you want to just give a bit of an explanation around some of your images?
Yes.
5G internet become infrastructure, and every people have some device of and after 5G, it will become 6G and more tangible internet product become
spread into the world.
Yeah. Okay. So if I look at these two perspectives, there are some different beliefs and goals kind of shaping them. And what's really what's interesting is both of your strategies rely foundationally on embedding technology into our geology or into all of our infrastructure, which is the same, right? So in 2030, there is a deep-rooted technological connection and embeddedment into the kind of fabric of our geological environment. But then what we have, and because you both have kind of considered this idea of accessibility and universal basic income, it means that communities are slightly connected. I think that what you will see, and it's very obvious just from the images that you've selected, is that one is deeply rooted in technology, but then using that technology as the solution, as the kind of means to hack government, implement this universal basic income, But then on the flip side, you're using technology to better connect people. So one is a lot more people or nature centered. And you can see that because you've kind of chosen these greener images. So you're starting to see in 2030, in response to climate change, these two very distinct worlds starting to emerge, where at the foundation of those worlds, it is all highly kind of entangled with technology. But in one side, it's kind of accelerating in a technology direction. And on the other side, it's creating these new conditions for community and environmental or natural flourishing. So there is similarities and there's differences. Now, if you just look at what were the tactics you applied to transition, they may seem abstract, but they are also signals to very real things that you see happening now. So on reflection of these things, you can already start to see these narratives emerging. And the reason why this game is a useful tool is that it allows you to, in a very playful way, start to engage with some of these ways of thinking, these knowledge systems, these ideologies, these beliefs that direct our decision making. And so if you think, if we bring this right back down to a practical, understanding within a service design context in particular, all of our services or anything that we design, and we design, you can basically design anything, touches on different actors, it touches on different groups that all have their own visions for what they want to change. They all have their own beliefs for what they want to change. So just by simply bringing in those questions around beliefs and what is your goal allows you to take a more expansive view of what's the change required to create something that is better, ideally something that is more just and fair and sustainable. So we have extremes here. We play with the extremes. All of these characters are extremes, but they are extremes of things that we actually see here. And that's kind of the beauty of fiction. But if you, I mentioned earlier, if you are looking at a city, you're looking at the future of a city, you have the government, you have developers potentially, you have citizens. There are different actors with different goals, with different beliefs that will ultimately shape that. And so the task here and the benefit of the tool is that you look at these emerging belief systems and competing goals or shared goals in how you can activate change. And everything that we do has tactics and strategies to enable that change to happen. So it might seem a little bit abstract, and because it is, and it's complex because the nature of the world is complex, and the game doesn't try to shy away from that. It says, no, we're going to deal with this complexity. I know a few of you had struggle, like I have no idea what this gang is. I do not know how to identify with it. But that's the work that we need to do to understand these different perspectives if we're going to navigate change. So on that note, we have just a few more minutes. We didn't get through as much as we'd like, but I wanted you to just stay with one particular horizon so you got to understand it. So any reflections before we close up or questions?
I got a question. I'm just curious of how to bring all that inspiration back to the future of the next day, not the 2030, but what to do next and how to decide. So we kind of have set the directions, which are quite inspiring, but how to put it back to the current state.
Yeah. So any when you're engaging with, you know, systems or futures thinking, it is just the nature of how you think to go to the vision, go to the where do you want to get to, before saying, now what's the first step for us to get to, right? And so by going to 2030, or, you know, we had 25, by going to 2025 and saying this is kind of the complexity, we understand what are the interdependencies, we understand where we want to go and what are the beliefs and hopes that will get us there. Then you can say, if we go back to today, what are the beliefs that need to change? Because changing beliefs around how we should be transitioning is a big, it is a very difficult task. And if design, and particularly service design, wants to really engage with deeper transformation, it needs to start to get into those, what are the beliefs that need to be challenged in order to create the transition that we want? And what are the tactics to get there? And who are the actors involved? And how do those tactics play out against each other? So the tactics are really what you do in the near term to orientate yourself towards this future.
I see.
Did someone have a Jing, you asked a question? It's a lot of fun once you understood the game.
Oh, it's not a question. It's just I post the post in chat, and I just really appreciate this game and really engage the ones I quite understand this, and I just want to keep going. And it's really cultivating the imagination. As you said, the crisis of imagination or creativity is happening in a lot of places.
Definitely.
We are too focusing on what we have now, but we just forgot about far more future. So this is great.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you all again for participating. You have the tools. They're open. You just, if you know, are trying to look at how to move this into some other direction, just reach out to us. And I will leave it there. Ignacio, did you want to say something?
Yes, I think that as a way of, since it's been super short, how do you think if we share the outcome of the COVID-19 Control Wars, all the narratives that were built? I think that would be interesting to go through. So all the scenarios that were built in there.
Yep, I think let's put it in the collaborative document on the website, just as an output.
Yeah, and I have the link here, and I'm gonna send it in the chat. Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you very much. This was something outstanding for sure.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your days.
Yeah.
Your day as well.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.